What's up, bud? It's Rob. This is Apparel Success. And if you don't know who I am, I run a Canadian lifestyle brand called K-Bud that's doing about $500,000 per year in sales. So I help clothing brands like yours get really good results. And in this video here, what I want to talk to you about is when you're starting a clothing brand for the first time, should you go for a big launch and try and build up this huge launch where everything takes off in the beginning? Or should you focus more on the day-to-day marketing and a longer-term, slower growth for your clothing brand over time? I have a lot to share with you on this, from building my own brand over 6 years here and helping hundreds of other brands grow their own brands, so I really hope you enjoy. Apparel Success is sponsored by my buds over at Design Crowd. And if designs are something that you struggle with, I really recommend that you give them a shot. All 3 of these designs sell like crazy through my website, and I got them all made through Design Crowd. If you're interested, head over to designcrowd.com/apparel to learn about the special offer that I have for you, or just use the discount code apparel when you post a project on Design Crowd. All right, so you're starting up a clothing brand, and it's getting to the point where you want to reveal it to the world, and you're thinking about how exactly you want to take this thing to the market. What's the very first thing? We're going right to the beginning phase here, right at the point of launch. And what I'd say here, my honest thoughts on this, is that I believe big launches for most people are overrated and they're overestimated. So the results that you think that you're going to get from a huge launch, which for most people when they first start up a clothing brand, let's get real, the big launch idea is getting your friends and family to post it on their Facebooks, post it on their Instagrams, and, make a big post on your own Instagram, your own Facebook, and I don't know, maybe share it to a couple blogs or something like that, or maybe start up a YouTube channel. But realistically, when you do that, this whole big launch idea for most people who are starting up here without any crazy resources, like it's not like you're going to get Drake to throw you a launch party for your clothing brand, right? If you're just like an everyday civilian starting up a brand. So in my mind, the way to go about starting your brand is obviously try and optimize the launch as best as you can. It's a good thing to get friends and family to share your brand. It's a good thing to make a bunch of posts on your Instagram account, make a bunch of posts on your own personal account just to try and get it out there as much as possible. But after you launch, that's when the real work begins. The way that brands grow is through building blocks, one block at a time. Every few thousand real followers that you get on your social media accounts for your brand is going to create a new perception for your clothing brand, and it's going to give your brand a new layer of credibility that you didn't have previously. Every single celebrity or influencer that you get to endorse your brand and you get a picture of them wearing it is going to add another level of value to your brand. And over time, as you acquire more and more of this social proof, of this credibility, of customers wearing your brand, customer by customer, telling their friends about it, you're slowly building your brand bigger and bigger. And the way to go about this is by being consistent in terms of what you're putting out there, how you're attacking the world, giving your brand a real presence that's there again and again and again so that people are familiar with it. And if a brand is brand new, it only has a month's worth of trust, a month's worth of reviews, a month's worth of people who have ever heard of it. And so it takes time. Now, that being said, I'm not trying to be a party pooper here and cramp on your big launch dreams, but I'm trying to give you some real advice. And, I've seen this a million times where, brands will wait a year or two trying to build up to this huge big launch that they do. And then all that they'll end up getting from this launch is like maybe 30 or 40 followers from like their friends and things. And it's like, it just collapses. And it's like, you spent a whole year thinking about this launch because there's this delusional idea about how well your brand is going to do right after you launch. You haven't even really figured out what your brand's about yet at that point. You haven't gotten any real feedback from the market. And that feedback from the market is what's going to allow you to really sculpt your brand into something that people truly want. And that takes time. Now, that being said, some practical advice for you if you're just launching your brand to really give you an advantage here right off the get-go and to get things moving quickly and, give you an actual boost for your social media is I recommend creating a bit of a runway of posts before you actually decide to release your brand. And what I mean by this is, hoard 14 2 weeks worth of posts where you're posting every day on Instagram. Like, create all of those in advance before you launch your brand so that you have 2 weeks worth of posts ready to go for that day that you launch your clothing brand. Do the same thing on TikTok. If you're creating a YouTube channel and you want to do the YouTube channel thing, do that on YouTube as well. Get all of your content ready so that you've got a runway and so that you're ahead of the content. If you just launch with one post and then you're like, oh crap, it didn't go viral and now I need to create posts every day, you're going to be a bit behind there when it comes to creating content. There are certain universal principles that must be followed when it comes to getting outcomes in business. And one of them that's worth repeating in literally every single video that I create is that things take time to build. For my own clothing brand, it took about 6 months to start really getting orders from people that I didn't know personally. And the reason for that was because when I launched, I thought I had a great idea. I thought everything was just going to blow up. And what I realized was I had to go back to the drawing board. I had to go deeper into my brand concept, into my messaging, and tweak everything. And 6 years in, now I'm getting between $1,000 and $2,000 a day in orders. Yesterday I got about 24 orders. Today I'm already at about 24 orders. It's like $2,000 a day. That sounds pretty good to me. There are brands doing way more in revenue than mine, and there are brands that are doing way less. But in order to get to this point where you've got, a few dozen orders coming in a day, and you're making a couple grand a day for your brand, where people are really buying in numbers, you really need to build something that people truly are getting value out of. And in this space, in clothing, so few people really know how to do that. And it's really a tricky thing. There's a lot to it. There's a lot that goes under the surface that a lot of people aren't aware of. And one of those things is that you need to build your brand over time with building blocks. Every 1,000 followers on Instagram helps with credibility. Every new celebrity and influencer endorsement helps with credibility. Every new customer that you get is going to tell maybe some of their friends about your brand, and that's going to lead to a little bit more word of mouth. And as that happens, what you're creating are positive feedback loops. As it starts to get to a point where, wow, you're actually getting a couple dozen orders a day coming in for your brand, then that's a couple dozen people every day that are receiving your products to go and tell their friends about it. And so it just tends to spiral much quicker once you get that momentum, but it takes time to be able to get to that point. And the slowest part of your growth will be at the beginning phase, because you don't have anything to leverage in that beginning phase. You don't have any followers. You don't have any celebrity and influencer endorsements. And so when people come across your brand, they say, why would I want to buy from this brand? Who else is supporting it? Where's the, credibility? Where's the social proof? And as you build that up slowly, it takes time. You've got to really be nailed in on a brand concept and really know what you're offering. As that starts to develop and as you start to build that up, once you reach a certain threshold with that, things get way easier for you and it'll become way easier to make sales. And so, that's my advice. Create a runway of content so that you, as the clothing brand owner, from the very beginning, have already content to be published. And this is going to be the hardest part for you, is getting into a habit of creating content regularly, making posts regularly, working on your brand regularly for not just a few days, not just a few weeks, but months and for years, and sticking to this to grow it into what its full potential will become. Long story short, it's all about the day-to-day marketing and the consistency. This idea of the big launch is enticing because the idea of going viral right off the bat is nice to think about, because it would mean that you don't even really have to do any work. It would just take off for you and you can just sit back and just, cash in. But that's just not the way that brands are built. It's just not the way that it works. And so I'm trying to ground you in a more real perspective that's going to get you to that point eventually, if you're willing to work hard at this and really put in that consistent effort. I hope you got a lot of value out of this video. And if you did, please hit the like button for me. It really helps me get these videos out there. And let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. And if you haven't already, check out my free clothing brand marketing masterclass. All you have to do to get access is go to apparelsuccess.com/masterclass, and you can watch the whole thing for free. And if you've made it to this point in the video, I want to tell you about the closed Facebook group that we have for Apparel Success. There's a link in the description. Follow that link, join us in the group. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.